This has been mentioned twice now this morning, about staying flexible. Both Daniel and Trent said that. This past week, just to show you what being flexible is, we do have a countdown that's supposed to start at 5 to 7, so that we start on time. However, somebody came in at 5 to 7 who was broken and needed someone to put their arm around them and to pray with them. And so I sat with her, I let her cry, I prayed with her, I asked her to come up and sit with me at the front table, which she did. And, we didn't get the timer on. It was already running late. And then Daniel stepped in and did the welcome. We're a team. Yeah. And it's so nice to know that we count on one another. We can be flexible to minister to people because we have a team.
That's right.
So leading a step group. Now the step group, of course, is the place where real healing takes place. And we determined to put those 12 steps into practice. And so because of this, we want leaders for step groups who are fully equipped and ready to make the most of the opportunity. We also want to have consistency. And so that's why we have training, we have our binders with the agenda, things like that. The consistency helps people to feel safe and they know what's coming up.
Yeah.
And so because CR loves acrostics, we have another acrostic. For leader, we don't use all of their acrostics, we can make up our own. So we're going to see what does it take to be involved as a step group leader. The first is L. The leader lives a Christian life. This is really our qualifications for step leaders. Okay? So the core team is going to look at these prerequisites when we ask you to serve as a step group leader. First and foremost, you must be committed to Jesus Christ as the higher power. Okay, nobody else. It's God alone. It's Jesus and what He's done for us that brings us healing. The second thing is, do you adhere to Christian moral values in your daily life? Do you follow biblical standards? So participants are going to look at how you live in freedom. So are you using the steps to resist temptation? That's a big one. Are you sexually pure? What is your language like? Are you speaking clean? Do you treat people with respect and try to love your enemies? Or are you holding grudges? All of those things we're going to look at. Are you walking the walk, not just talking the talk? 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 says, do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you receive from God? You're not your own. You were bought with a price. Therefore, honor God with your body. In other words, honor God with your actions. Honor God with what you do. Honor God with who you are. Okay? Thirdly, a step group leader will attend the large group meetings regularly. They may not get there every week. I understand that. If you're leading a step group, that's 2 nights a week, sometimes 3, as you prepare and so on. But are you regularly attending large group? And have you completed a minimum of 1 step study, preferably 2? I'd like to see everybody do 2 Journey Begins study groups.
That's good.
I learned so much in the first, and I learned 3, 4, 5 times as much in the second, and that much again in the third. God keeps working through those 12 steps. And so to be a step study group leader, you will have a minimum of 1 time through a step study, and hopefully 2. And then the journey begins. You will have participated in both, the journey continues. You will have participated in both step groups. The journey begins and the journey continues. The 5th thing is, do you demonstrate a dedication to the recovery process? And do you have an accountability team? Okay, if you are going through the process and you want to recover, you will have an accountability team.
Yes.
Because you cannot do it on your own.
That's so good.
Okay, so those things will be in place as we look for qualifications or prerequisites to lead a step study. Now, the next point, key, is for equal responsibility. And this is really talking about the leader and co-leader dynamic. Leadership is not a hierarchy.
Right.
The leader doesn't make all the decisions and push it down the line and tell the co-leader what to do, tell somebody else what to do, and so on and so forth. Okay, the way that leaders and co-leaders work together will not be a hierarchy, it will be a partnership. And so you see that arrow goes both ways. Right? It's not just going down, it goes both ways. You're going to work together to make decisions. Sometimes both the leader and the co-leader will have experience as leaders, and sometimes this will be the co-leader's first time through. And so the experienced leader is going to be mentoring and training by modeling how to be a leader. And I really think that the best way to learn is to watch the model and then do it with them and then do it alone.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
really
And so the partnership is really important. You're going to be sharing all the responsibilities. So what does it mean to be a partner? First of all, you must communicate. You're going to communicate before the group meetings. So how are each of you doing? Is there any stress, any difficulty, anything that's going on in your life that you need to pray about together? How can you encourage one another? If it's been a down week, spend a few minutes with that co-leader of yours to encourage them. Say, look how far you've come, and so on and so forth, and pray for them. And then communicate after the group meeting. How do you think it went tonight? Did you notice that so-and-so was really down? We need to pray specifically for them this week. You know, those kinds of things. What can we do better? How about next week you do such and such and I'll do this? So you're communicating both before the meeting and after. Secondly, you're going to share responsibility. Decide at least a couple days before the group meeting who's going to do what on that agenda. Now, if you turn over, or I might be new one now, I think it's a new sheet in there, it looks just like the others, you know, the agendas on how to go through the components in a step study. So you'll see the component sheet for a step study. Use that. Look at it and say, okay, would you do the worship song this week and the devotional? I'll do the questions. Next week, you'll shake it up a bit, you know, have the co-leader do the questions, things like that. And so you are sharing the responsibility, and you're going to write it down before you get there, so you remember who's doing what. The leaders can also ask the participants to take part. Sunny, would you read the guidelines today? Jennifer, would you read the devotional that is in there? The Journey Continues, by the way, has a specific devotional that we do. So you can ask the participants to take part in some of those elements, reading the guidelines and things like that. Now, if you are training a co-leader, I would suggest that you cover the lesson and the questions for the first few weeks. And that's modeling how to do that. And at the same time, the co-leader is going to become comfortable with the other components, like the worship, picking up song, praying at the end, whatever it is. The open share time, or the check-in time, I also think should be led by the leader who is training for the first few weeks. Again, you're modeling how to do that. By the time you're in the second book, the co-leader and the leader will be sharing these responsibilities and components equally. By the time you reach the third book, you're handing off the responsibility to the co-leader to do the deciding of who does what. Okay, so you give them the agenda and say, Okay, now it's your responsibility. You tell me what to do. And so you are training them again. You've modeled, they have watched, you're now letting them do it. By the time you get to the fourth book, you can also be doing this with your participants in the group. So they have seen both of you model how to do the questions, how to do open share, those types of things. And so you'll say, Deb, would you like to be the leader for next week? And Georgia, you be the co-leader. You know, and so we're learning, teaching, and modeling what to do. The third thing in a partnership is praying for each other. That is so important because as a study leader, where God is really digging and prodding the people in the group to make changes, there are going to be attacks.
Right.
You know, so you need to be prayed up. You need to be praying for one another. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more later. A stands for accepts and applies the leader priorities. As a leader, you set the tone for the group, and the participants follow. So what you do and what you model is important. And it will set the values and the priorities for the group, and they're going to copy that. So I have 3 keys for priorities. The first is preparation. You have your homework done.
Yeah.
Don't expect it of the participants if you haven't done it.
That's good.
Now, when you're doing your homework, leaders, this is important. You're going to get so much more out of your group and the study if you do this. Go to the beginning of your CR step.
Yeah.
Do the principal readings for that lesson. So whether it be denial, powerless, whatever, do the acrostics. At the end of that lesson, it says for denial, go to page 1554, I think it is. You flip over there, you read the verse in context,
Yeah.
you read the little lesson. At the bottom of the lesson, it says, now go to page 744. So you go there until you've gone through the whole denial acrostic. You are going to get more, I guarantee it, if you do that. You will also, God's going to speak to you and say, you know what, I think that you should mark this down, this little segment or whatever, because it's going to come up. Lo and behold, it does. Somebody has to hear that week. And so if you are prepared and you've done your homework and you've done the principal readings, you are going to be adding to the growth of your group.
Yeah, that's really good.
The second is participant care. So again, just as we were talking about newcomers, it's not about you, it's about the participants. So be warm, be accepting, accept them where they are, show respect for what they say, and where they are in the journey. Maintain confidentiality, so important. Here's another one. Don't fix. Don't fix, Shirley. I have to say that to me all the time because I'm a fixer. All right, that's one of my bad habits that I am changing. Don't fix. Instead, be an active listener.
Yeah, come on.
What does that mean to be an active listener? You make eye contact. You nod when they're saying something. I get it. I understand. You don't have to say the words, but if you're looking at them and you make some kind of body language to say they're heard, that is active listening. Remember it, because afterwards you might want to pray with that person or hold them up in prayer through the week, whatever it is. And you know what? You'll know you're successful as an active listener when the participants start turning to you when they speak. Have you ever noticed that?
Yes.
They'll address the person who's listening, whether it's the leader or not. They address the person who's listening. So be an active listener.
That's good.
The third thing is promote attendance. Make sure your participants are attending a weekly large group and a share group. You know, lots of times people will come just to the large group and then skip out. They're missing a lot.
Yeah.
And so encourage that. You can't enforce it, but you can encourage it. All right? D in leader stands for directs and disciplines. And the important thing to note here is that leaders are not teachers. They are facilitators.
Mhm.
It's the Holy Spirit who teaches.
Right.
So as a leader, you are going to direct the discussion and allow the Holy Spirit to do His work. You don't need to give a theological lesson. I've been to Bible college or whatever. I'm free to lead a good group. You don't need to. You are there to listen. You are a witness to what the Holy Spirit is doing in a person's life. You'll also model personal and group discipline by adhering to some of these standards. First, start and end on time. That's respecting your participants' personal schedules, and they will respect yours. If you start on time, they're going to come on time. Okay? Stick to the guidelines. Talk about how you'll do this at the first meeting or two. For example, you have to let the group know if somebody says something too graphic and you can't take it, put up your hand. You know, that's just an example. And the leader will be watching for that, and if it gets too graphic, and then I notice that Carla puts up her hand, I'm going to say, we have to tone down the graphic input. Okay? It's easy, really, if you set that priority at the beginning of the group. Same with how much time to share. Okay, how are we going to handle it if you go past your 3 to 5 minutes? I'm going to say, we must move on. All right, so you set those things ahead of time. Keep to the limit by reading your answers. That's really simple. And if you set them as a priority at the beginning, then that's the way it's done. And that's how you become a listener, not a fixer. Okay, you have them read their answers and then go on from there. Ensure that crosstalk is not indulged. The time for crosstalk really can be at the check-in time. So somebody says, hey, I've had a great week, I did this, you know, God led me to that. That's time for crosstalk. Yeah, way to go, I'm so proud of you. You know, we can all learn from that. But whatever the expression is, that's what crosstalk should be. Not, hey, I read a book about that this week. You know, you're fixing if you do that. So crosstalk is for the check-in time or even the open share time. Open share is different from answering the questions. Open share comes later if you have time and you want to pick up on, say, a certain point that everybody has said the same thing in their lessons. You know, you say, I've noticed that our struggle this week has been such and such. Have an open share time, and you can go around the circle, you can do the popcorn method where just anybody answers whatever. But again, keep it to the time limit and make sure it doesn't get out of line. Third is follow the component agenda. Participants will know what to expect. It gives a sense of comfort, a sense of safety, and it makes it easier for your co-leader to learn. Okay, so stick to that agenda. It's really simple. Be prepared to ask the tough questions of your participants. For example, if you see that someone's continuing in addiction, they need to be challenged. Lovingly. Galatians 6:1 says, you who are spiritual, you know, should correct the person who is not, but do it gently, lest you be tempted. Okay, so if there's a continuation of bad behavior, they keep on doing crosstalk, they keep on violating guidelines, whatever it is, correct them privately. Okay, if it keeps on, then you correct them in front of the group. But correct them privately first. If someone's not doing their homework or not attending regularly, you're going to have to find out why. And if they're not committed to doing those things, to being there as often as possible and doing their homework, then it's time to say, you know what, I think maybe it would be good timing if you waited till the next study. Because you're not fully in it this time. And you're going to get so much more out of it if you wait a bit. Keep coming to our Tuesday groups, hear the lessons, get to know people more, and then you're going to be a little more ready to enter in with the step study. Okay, it's all right to do that. If somebody's not ready, it's going to affect the group. So your first priority has to be the group rather than one individual. Never mind. Okay. It's a principle to help people mature. Again, Galatians 6:1 says, brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual, what the heck does that mean? Am I a spiritual person? Well, if you're mature and you're in tune with the Holy Spirit, yes, you're a spiritual person. If you're trying your best to follow what Jesus wants you to do, you are a spiritual person. Okay, and the reason that we confront is to restore. Restore gently. E is encourages growth and accountability. Leaders model how to be encouragers. Ephesians 4:29 says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only that which is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen.
Right.
That's what encouragement is about. It's going to be a benefit to the person that is listening. So, watch progress and growth, and then verbally acknowledge that to the participant, both in the group and privately. Okay, so there have been times that we've had to stop and say, I'm going to use you, Jenny. Okay, Jennifer, don't say that about yourself. You have really grown. We see a change in you. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's encouragement. And they will take it in and grow from there. Encourage the group to constantly rely on their accountability team. Again, you are not going to get the most out of step study unless you have a sponsor and accountability partners. It's the best way to ensure maintaining their growth after as well, to have that accountability team. Third is encourage prayer for one another during the week. Now there's plenty of ways you can do that. In the groups that I'm in, I like to write a prayer request out on a piece of paper, and then we share it among ourselves, and we pray about that person's request during the week. And one gal in our group says she puts it with her debit card, so every time she goes to pay for something, she says, oh, wait, they're praying for Shirley. So pray for each other. Another way to show that you're praying is to call them or text them and say, you're on my mind, just be blessed today, or whatever it is. Okay, and pray with them. R is rejoices and victories. Our ministry is called Celebrate Recovery for a reason. Romans 12:15 says, rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. So we need to celebrate what Jesus is doing in our lives. And the purpose is, when we celebrate those things, it seals the work in that person's heart. And it encourages them to keep on going, keep on growing. Okay, so share or celebrate what's happening. Philippians 1, verses 3, 4, and 6. This is one of the first verses that was ever given to me personally. My sister wrote it on a bookmark. She made a bookmark for me, and she said, this is for you to know that I'm praying for you. It says, I thank my God every time I remember you. And in all my prayers for you, I always pray with joy, being confident of this. Now, everybody knows this? That he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Okay, so we need to be remembering each other in prayer, rejoicing with them, and verbally acknowledging them. The second thing is to share your own struggles and victories. Let the group know you're human. Boy, I know I'm human. I know I have weaknesses. I know that I fail. I know that I have bad days and struggles, so what do? Share it. And when you share this, you not only receive from the group, but you can talk about how you overcome, how God has helped you, how the Holy Spirit is leading you. You say, I had the worst day on Friday that you could ever imagine. This happened. I fell down in the dumps. But there was something that God wanted to teach me. And when you share that, it gives hope to the group. So it's important to share your own struggles and victories. Now, if you notice in your packet, there's a handout that's a schedule for both the journey begins and the journey continues. And it will say, you know, you have the lesson, you go across to the right, and it'll say 1 or 2 or 0.5. That's how many weeks you will take to do that lesson if you want your group to complete it in about 6 months. Okay, so use that as a guideline. When we get to the inventory, those lessons take longer. So we have put 2 weeks to do that lesson. For some of the other lessons, like Grace and Vivian, I think is one, we combine. And you can do 2 lessons in 1 week. Why do we want to do it in 6 months? What do you think?
Because I have attention deficit disorder.
We all have attention deficit disorder in this country of ours. And we have busy schedules. And we lose track, or we lose enthusiasm if it goes on for too long. I've known some groups that have gone a whole year, and by the time they get to the end of the year, they're left with a quarter of the participants that started out. You know, so we have proven that we have better retention in the group, and that the same bond happens in that 6-month time as it would in a year. You know, so let's do it in a time that makes it reasonable for everybody. And also, it allows us to run more groups per year.
Yes.
You know, so there's lots of reasons why we like to do it in the 6-month frame. And I think that's it for my lesson.
Very good.
Anybody have any questions about sharing? Yeah.
The next step study starting.
The next step study will be in April. Now, we said Wednesday, April the 8th, but if the group decides that another night is better, okay, they can do that. They can choose another night. But we'll start on the 8th. We'll have the introduction. We'll talk about how this tech study works. Now, that's the journey begins. Again, what I said, do it 2 or 3 times is well worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, even if my 3rd time through I didn't do the inventory because it was back to back with my 2nd time through. However, this time I did the inventory and learned a whole lot more about myself. You know, so April the 8th will be for men's and ladies groups. We'll have an introduction night. We'll tell them about the CR Bible. We'll give out the booklets, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and then the group can decide on their own what night they're going to meet. Sunny.
How about including some lessons on diversity and understanding people from different walks of life? You know, like training or...
That's an excellent idea. Because we are becoming more multicultural all the time. You know, there's even a huge difference between warm cultures and cold cultures.
Yes.
A big difference in the way they even take, breaks, the manana thing, tomorrow. Time isn't as important to somebody who comes from a warm culture as it is to a cold culture. Isn't that amazing? And we come from diverse backgrounds. Those who have been in the church, those who have been on the street, things like that. So that's a very good idea. I'm going to write that down, Sonny. Thank you. And we'll do something on diversity. Anybody else?
I'm don't know much about the leadership here, but do the leaders know all the other schools that the church offers? All the other courses?
Quite a bit. Yeah, we're certainly aware of them, and we try to make sure we're aware. And something that we want to do is to, when we move to Monday nights and we get established, then we want to invite the other recovery groups like divorce care groups, share, single parenting, things like that, to come and worship with us and then divide into their groups at the worship time so that we'll get to know one another. They'll get to know what CR is about. We'll get to know what divorce care is about, things like that.
Because the reason I ask that is, 1 month ago, I was sitting with a gentleman that didn't know if this was for him or not, and it wasn't. He needs to be in the doorstep. And
Right.
Mark just happened to be sitting at our table. And that kind of conversation, we try to money, actually.
That's right. And things like Stephen Ministry. If somebody's going through a really tough time, Stephen Ministry